Hi viewers, today video by #DailyVice. Donald Trump has been losing some aspects of a case in New York and now the Attorney General attention James. Asking a judge to hold him in civil contempt. It's a new move that ratchets up pressure on the former president to comply with this subpoena for documents and evidence in the investigation into the Trump Organization finances. Now the motion cites a quote failure to comply with this lawful subpoena and thus seeks civil contempt. That's basically money not jail, so 10K a day for every day until infinity until he complies. James also says Trump has #DailyVice basically been evading the probe and says no one is above the law. There's also news on the criminal probe into Trump in New York that I mentioned. We're going to get into that in a moment. Against civil and criminal, two very different paths, but amidst both of those investigations there's also the January 6th congressional probe. NBC News learning that the committee is considering calling Trump to testify, and #DailyVice. The president keeps fixating on this, speaking out to the Washington Post in a lengthy interview where he tries to blame Pelosi and others for the violence that he unleashed at the Capitol by sending all of the people from his rally to go march on the Capitol where they breached it. He also stands by incendiary and false rhetoric about the election and the false quote idea that he could be reinstated as president at some point during Biden's term, which is false. #DailyVice is for the 7-hour gap in the White House phone logs. Trump denies the use of burner phones and says he doesn't remember getting very many calls. He also says in the interview, what's the difference if he talked to people or not? The Justice Department is looking into classified documents that may have been taken from the White House to Mar-a-Lago, which reminds a lot of people of the Clinton email issues, except this time committed by Trump with a lot more for sure. Now there's a lot of developments to get to. Renato Mariotti, a former prosecutor himself, is here when we're back in 1 minute. I'm joined now by former federal prosecutor Renato Mariotti. Welcome back, sir. Thanks, great to be here. Ari, what do you see here in this standoff with the New York Attorney General, where Trump is of course setting a tone people are familiar with? Even when he loses a legal motion or battle over evidence, he just doesn't comply. Yeah, I have to say, it's one thing to have a disagreement about the scope of an order, it's one thing to fight around the edges about particular documents, particular pieces of discovery, but when the deadline comes and goes, you don't comply at all. You don't do anything to try to move towards compliance. You gotta expect that the other side is gonna try to seek some relief from the court, so I'm not surprised that she's making this move, and I think that Trump's lawyers are either being put in a tough position by him or they are totally off the rails, because I think they are going to face a very angry judge, and then and then I suspect that the judge is going to impose some sort of penalty in order to get compliance of that subpoena. I would be very surprised if nothing happens regarding this, because he hasn't complied at all. The deadline just came and went, nothing happened. Yes, I mentioned that's the civil side. Then there was this really surprise news in the criminal side probe, which had been reportedly paused. So Renato stays. Let me update everyone this. It's basically an unusual set of announcements that came out from the relatively new Manhattan D.A. Alvin Bragg. He's discussing the questions about whether this Trump criminal probe is continuing, and he says it is, but the law requires secrecy during an investigation. Now it's unusual for a D.A. Thanks for watching this video by #DailyVice channel. Following